Converse versus deep, number 2 tip-off. To the top of your screen here, he's playing obviously in a corner role here. Um, Looks like LSU is playing some type of a 3 buzz, where you have this safety dropping down, buzz defender. You have another corner here who doesn't really get into his deep third just because there's no passing threat out there. Bites up a little bit in the run game. But for Converse, the thing that I usually talk about like shuffle techniques, and I really typically don't like them. The one thing they do is allow you to gain information. So he already has a receiver. He's over top right here again. In that off coverage, about 9 yards off right now. While he's closing ground on Converse, it allows him to read some information, right? So we could see he starts to angle his hips off. He reads the inside, and he could be reading multiple things here. He could be reading the backfield, seeing how deep the quarterback's drop is. He could be reading, obviously, if it's run or pass. So that's 2 things he can gather. Another thing he can gather, and even though he's in like a deep third zone, not necessarily saying that this out part of this route means that this is going to be a deeper route, but you're not typically going to see like him stop, run like a stop or a hitch or a curl right here, right into this route. So that can give you some information as well. Converse does a good job of, again, keeping his eyes on the side, kind of getting some information. He gets into a shuffle. He does a good job staying over top of the route. Now, I believe this receiver does get a little bit into his blind spot, but when it's so tight to the sideline, it's not as bad as obviously if you're like at the numbers and he's attacking your blind spot. So he's slightly in the blind spot, but he can feel where he is. He sees the quarterback. He knows it's a deeper route, whether it be a post or just a straight 9. And again, Converse stays over the top. I don't know if he has peripheral vision on him right now. It seems like he does, just based on the route bending inside, and then he gets over top of the route well. As the receiver closes some ground, Converse is the first to throw contact. He throws that arm into the shoulder chest area just to slow the receiver down and feel out that route. And he stays over top of the route for the rest of the route. And obviously it's an overthrow, but it's a good play by him. It's a good play. It's a good job staying balanced right here. Gets into his shuffle, eyes into the backfield, eyes on the number 2, wherever exactly they are, doesn't matter. Either way, he's getting some information. Again, staying over top of the route, matching the route when he stems it inside on the post, getting hands on, and completely shutting it down deep. So that's a good play, Florida State. So number 2, Converse squeeze versus deep route. Okay, he is right here. Little bit of no man's land. We don't necessarily love the whole 3-yard off thing because it just doesn't really do much for you. Either press. It doesn't have to be aggressive press. It could be soft press or play off. I'm not really a big fan of like the whole catch man 2 to 3 yard or 3 to 4 yard thing. It just doesn't really typically work out for many players. So nonetheless, he's heads up leverage, maybe slightly inside of that corner or of the receiver. Let's watch. Okay. So the one thing that we do this receiver doesn't catch this ball, right? I don't think he does, but we'll see that in a second. The one thing we do like already, or the thing I like about this rep, is the patience. So he angles off slightly to the outside, but he's in a really good stance. That stance is very good. Good knee bend, arms are up, shoulders over knees, knees over toes. Like it's a good stance. And as the receiver releases, he throws that kick step with the left foot right there just to keep himself balanced. He stays square for the most part. He stays balanced. He angles off his hips as the receiver starts to work to the outside. He doesn't want to completely open up. If he opens up too much, then obviously if it's like a bullet slant and he runs right under, that's gonna be a problem. So a slight angling off of the hips is a good idea. And obviously you can get a shuffle in and just stay completely square and over the top as well. But specifically when you have some room to the sideline right here, kind of angling your hips off and maintaining inside leverage while inviting him to the outside is fine, because if he cuts to the inside, okay, you have the inside leverage, you can match it. But if he cuts to the outside, there's not a lot of room there. So he doesn't have to necessarily be as, what's the word I'm looking for? Like concerned about vertical routes to the outside, because he has faith in himself at least to squeeze it enough, right? So he angles off slightly to the outside. He obviously, the receiver commits to the outside, as does Converse, as the receiver does. He gets his inside hand on him, just trying to jam him on the stem. Stays in phase with him on the route. And now in terms of playing the ball and stuff like that, I gotta. It's some again. Sometimes the film is it's hard to see exactly, especially with I don't know if this is LSU shooting it, but it probably is. Yeah, All-State Louisiana kickoff. Their cameras were terrible. LSU has some of the worst camera crews or whatever out there, but it looks it. Yeah, it's a little bit murky here just because again of the actual camera quality. But looks like he gets his hand up at least right there. You can see it. You can see his arm flash, and at least do something to get the ball out. Again, the camera quality makes it pretty hard, but good patience, good balance, good angling off, good job squeezing it to the sideline. Yeah, he gets stacked, but if you're like, oh, he got beat deep. If they have to make this completion, if this is the completion making guys make on you to catch a ball, we'll take it. And obviously he drops it, so it doesn't even necessarily. It wasn't even a play where he got a ball call on him. But with that being said, with Converse, sometimes you're actually watching his film, and he's not the most athletic guy in the world. I don't care testing numbers, whatever it is. He's definitely not the most athletic guy in the world in terms of like fluidity, brakes, acceleration. He's just more average in that aspect. So there's some times where he actually has some pretty good technique, but he's just not a stud athlete. You know, that can happen. So Converse cover versus inside break far throw. Okay. I believe he's top of the screen right here. Yeah, I believe he's top of the screen. I'll be able to see based on. Okay, no. So bottom of the screen. So he's right here. So I like this play from Converse as well in terms of a cornerback in terms of just how he plays this, because at this point, just based on the alignment, right? You have the quarterback on the far hash. Obviously, we know the hashes in college are very, very wide. So we're making a far hash throw for a quarterback in college is very, very hard. And you're in the red zone, and look how far they are away. So just based on this information, you'd assume it's going to be an inside breaking route. And if it is an outside breaking route, a fade, okay, it's a far throw. It's going to take some time for the ball to get there. And Converse has faith in himself to be able to get back outside. Nonetheless, I like the fact that he's off coverage is fine. 5 to 7 yards at the minimum. Okay, we have about 6-7 yards, and you can see he's heavily leveraged inside. Why? Because just based on all the information I kind of just presented, it's most likely going to be an inside break. And if it's not an inside break, okay, outside break, fine. It's a far throw for the quarterback to make. So I like the patience right here of Converse to stay square but have heavy inside leverage. I'm completely fine with the heavy inside leverage there, just because again he breaks to the outside. That ball's have to have some air under it. He's going to be able to break and get to the ball. Fine. Stay square. Want to see the hands a little bit more ready, but still is square, has good balance. The receiver breaks to the inside, which he guards against, gets a shuffling, gets hands on, hand onto the hip to dictate the route, match him. That's a good play by Converse right there. It's really, really good patience and knowing what leverage to have in the red zone versus far hash quarterbacks. So Converse TD given eyes back early. Eyes back early, play hands. Okay. Maybe bottom. Maybe bottom. Yeah. Yeah, so this is something I don't he's definitely not the best at like tracking balls over his shoulder and just playing balls in general. And with in terms of the leverage here, I'm not mad at it again because it's a similar situation. This receiver is not as tight to the sideline, but you have far hash quarterback. You have a receiver who's bottom of the numbers. Make him beat you outside. I'm completely okay with the leverage here. Off coverage, we have about for about 6-7 yards right there from Converse, and gets into a back pedal. Again, maintains heavy inside leverage, is pretty patient, isn't in like a panic back pedal. You could see his steps are very they're smooth, they're controlled, with good weight distribution. Okay. The receiver stems him inside, breaks to the outside. Okay, completely fine. Up to now, it's completely fine up to this point. But now with this is where you see some of the lack of athleticism take over, because he actually plays it pretty well in terms of breaking, in terms of matching, in terms of getting onto the route. If he had a little bit more athleticism, he'd probably be a little bit more over the top. But nonetheless, he has pretty good leverage on him. And just based on just based on the receiver's eyes, it should tell you something about when the ball is coming as well. Not necessarily saying that if the receiver's eyes are back early, the ball is always going to be there at a certain time. But if his eyes are back pretty early, or if they're back for a long time. Yeah, I shouldn't say early. I'm saying if they're back for a long time. If the receiver's eyes are back for 10, 15, 20 yards, the ball is most likely going to be coming. So you really got to either find that ball early when he turns around for it or just play the eyes. Because here, he's been looking back for a while. Converse is again, he's a good job putting that arm on top of the shoulder. Why? Because he's trying to prohibit the receiver's arm from coming up. If the receiver was to jump up with the inside arm, you have Converse arms who's naturally over top of it. So we like the hand fighting there. And in terms of playing the ball, he never is able to find. He's never able to find the ball because his eyes get back late. His eyes get back at the 5-yard line, and the ball is already pretty much going over his head. So at a certain point, it's a feel thing. But when a receiver's eyes are back for a very long time, you have to just play the eyes. Got to play the eyes. You can't try to locate that ball late. It's going to be really, really hard. It's exactly what happens here. I don't think he finds it. Doesn't really play it. Receiver makes a good one-handed catch. And again, if that's the catch that has to beat him, we'll take it. He didn't get burned here. But still, we got to see him play the ball better and just have a feel for that. Converse man rep bottom, good stance, good bend, good hand carriage. Let's watch. Slightly inside leverage. That's a good rep. That's a good rep from him at corner. So, kick step just to keep himself balanced. Again, a lot of coaches will teach the kick step instead of not, because if just when you have receivers who are naturally moving fast at you, your body naturally wants to react, and typically guys react by splitting their feet, dropping their ass onto their heels, for lack of a better term, just sinking their weight backwards, which makes them off balance and not able to obviously react to movement. So, kick step, okay, and the receiver stems them inside. Converse does a nice job of the kick step, staying balanced, weaving to the inside, just a slight weave, backpedal but moving sideways. So slight weave with good, good posture. Again, I want to see the hands a little bit more ready, but still overall good job weaving, good job staying really patient. That soft shoe press right there. Then the receiver commits to the outside. You have Converse who gets the outside hand on, runs with them, squeezes them to the sideline a little bit, and runs them so far to the outside where he made the throw, not the throw. He made the route bow out wide like that, where the quarterback expected him to be more inside there, but because he bows the route so far outside, it messes up the timing. Because if he didn't have to get bowed out so far outside, obviously it takes a more linear angle, and then he gets to the ball. So it's a good rep by Converse there. Converse beat inside slot. Okay, he's right here. Versus number 3 receiver. Yeah, so this is one where we want to see, and this is why I don't love that off man. And the thing about it here is you want to see the feet a little bit more active. So it really depends on the rep, but you have read steps, you have like an inch back pedal, you have back pedals who are fully into it, you have like foot fire techniques for these guys. But the thing we don't want to see is, and this is why I don't love like soft or like that catch man coverage, because you can't really press, you can't really get your hands on. And even in like soft shoe press, you don't get hands on necessarily, but you're closer to getting hands on. You can kind of read a little bit more and have your feet more active. But when you're playing off coverage like this and your feet are flat, it's gonna be really, really hard for them to match a break. So one, we don't love just the overall not pressing here. Now, with that being said, you also have the fact that you have 3 receivers here. So it's a little bit hard to play on the same level, because he plays on the same level. That's going to have a lot of rubs and stuff. So he may be in a position where his coaches are telling him, hey, you have to play off right here, which is okay. Like, that happens. And specifically with when you have bunches, stacks, things like that. So that's something you have to take into account for. But nonetheless, it's still a compromised position you don't necessarily want to be in. So I like the fact that he's patient, but the feet have to be active. The feet have to be active. And you can see a slight lean back onto the heels. You see how he starts to lean back, and it's harder for him to match that break to the inside by the receiver. Now the receiver obviously doesn't get the ball, but it's just a note. When you're playing off like that, gotta have ready feet. Your feet have to be you have to be on your toes, if you're running your feet ready to match breaks, because when you get flat footed, you start to lean back, and it's gonna be harder for you to match. And again, it wasn't a bad play, like it wasn't a bad play, but something I decided to record for whatever reason. Converse off man beat, paste to the bottom right here, off man. You want to see him be able to react a little bit quicker to that break. It takes him it takes an extra second to match the break inside. And again, you have